Hello and welcome to an exclusive hour-long programme with me, Alex Belfield, talking to a genius and a legend and the one and only Des O'Connor. How are you?
I don't know what to say after that. I mean, what can I say? I can't wait to hear what I'm going to say.
It's nice meeting you after all these years because basically I grew up watching you on TV and everybody has because you've been doing it forever.
I think just before John Logie Baird invented it. It's been a long while. I won't joke and say we wore green makeup in those days. No, but and the first show I did was in 1953 and The Odd Thing, and I did a series in 58 called Spot the Tune, and then got my first TV series in 63. And you've been stuck with me every year since for 46 years. I think television is a microscope, and what you do on there, the viewers can see. They're very discerning, and they can see what's genuine, what's phony. This guy is relaxed, he's enjoying it, or he's pretending to be. I think it all shows up, so you just have to be yourself.
You've always got a twinkle in your eye. That's what I notice about you, whether it's on Countdown or on your chat shows. You seem to enjoy it, and that's infectious.
Well, that's the secret, you see, Alex. If you're not enjoying it, how can you expect them to be enjoying it if you're not? I know you could be the greatest actor in the world, but it would come through as being phony. Though I used to get, not told off, but you say, oh, you do laugh a lot on that couch when we were interviewing all the comics. But I was genuinely, I mean, I didn't say, what are you going to say? There was a time, I have to be honest, say, especially when the American comedians were coming over, we would vet their material and say, well, that won't work, that might work. Yeah, talk about that. But I found later, after about a few years, because it ran for 27 years, but the first few years, I said, no, I don't want to know. If you want to talk to Neil Shan and ask his advice, just let it happen in front of the cameras, which he did. And people watched it. And the lovely thing, Alex, is it was for right across the family, right of them. It could be Granny, it could be the kids, and they all got something in that programme. Pop stars, actors, comedians. Nice mix.
I think you're also lucky because you had the good years of show business. It seems to me if you were doing it today, there wouldn't be the same calibre of guests.
Well, that's true. That's right. And I looking back now, I see it, especially now, I see it as the golden era of television, because right through the 70s, 80s, there's all that talent, and there's still the people that were left over from that had learnt their trade in the theatre, which is a big secret. You might think they are two different genres, but they're not. If you can appeal to a packed house and a theatre, you should be able to do it on television by winding it all back a bit, not pushing, not trying, just being relaxed and enjoying it. And I think as we said just now, it comes through. People can see. I
was talking to my auntie earlier and I said, I'm going to Des O'Connor's today to do this interview. She said, I used to serve him when he used to come and perform at Butlins.
Did you really? What, in Filey, up at Filey?
No, at Skegness.
Oh, was it Skegness? Oh, dearie me. Well, there you go. So give her my best wishes.
Well, she said you were a great tipper, and that got me thinking as well, because you've got to be careful when you're famous, haven't you, that you don't upset anybody, because those stories get passed on.
Well, I wouldn't tip. And, I've never been flash with money, and I've never been tight either. I just think if someone's good and nice and fair, don't do you any harm just to leave a few bob or quid, whatever it is, And I do think the old adage of be nice to people on the way up and all that stuff, I never ever thought about that. I just come from a family where you were polite and you were friendly and enjoyed getting paid for doing something you like doing,
Is it nice today being here and still being current and able to pick and choose what you're doing? And when people want you on, you can go?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, I'd found myself over the last few years, 2 or 3 years ago, I was watching that Al Murray and I thought, that guy's clever. That's an act he's putting on there. You speak to him, he's a very well-educated, well-spoken guy. But he made me laugh and he can think quick. I have one little bit about him. I said, what do you have to swear for, Al? That's just he and me, because I have this thing and I don't believe you need to swear. But so I went on there and it was great. And it's what your point you were saying, to be able to choose what you want to do rather than go on anything just to be on the TV. No, I don't need that anymore. And having a little bit of being able to select, it's nice. It is very, very nice. And it's nice to get the invites.
All right, we're going to play music from your new album today. You've got this new album out called Inspired, which for me is like Diana Krall and Michael Bublé, those kind of artists that just make you go, it's warm and cuddly, and I love that type of music.
Well, I'm glad you like that album, because what you just said is what we set out to do, is to make it feel warm and a little hints of the past, and it's for romantic fools like you, Mr. Belfield. I said, Alan, why don't we try and write those songs, the great quality songs. So he looked at me with a really weird look. I said, you and I dragged him to the piano and bit by bit got him to, kick around a few notes. We did it together. And suddenly we had a melody, and I said, how about this? I've got an idea for a title. And bit by bit, And we found it took us, we didn't rush it, over 18 months. We'd written 20 songs, of which 18 are on there. And if Eric Morecambe was here now, even Eric Morecambe would buy this one. No, I actually think it is, as I say, it's romantic, but there's a nice little mix of swing in there as well. A little bit of the it's a big band, and there's not a synthesizer on that album. It's all real instruments and the cream of the crop of musicians in the country. So what we try and do when you do something in this business, let's not hide behind it. You've got to promote it. It's no good you having a lovely album and it's on your shelf and nobody else's. And I'm not embarrassed. In fact, people used to say to me, how do you get Barbra Streisand on your program? Because she'd never done a TV show in front of an audience. I said, well, she just happened to have directed and produced, which means putting up the money for a film called, I think it was called The Mirror Has Two Faces. And I said, I can't feel any guilt bringing her all the way from America, and she did it for practically nothing in terms of fee, because she knew the reward would be that millions of people would know about her movie. That's what we're doing here. I don't feel too bad about promoting things. I'm quite happy, and especially when they're good quality stuff. Now
listen, we've got a lot to get to, so we must stop chit-chatting because we've got to talk about your life and your career. What were you like as a child?
Adorable. I couldn't walk till I was 7. And I had calipers on the legs, but after that, my mum, but then all mums say this, she knew, she said, I know he's going to be a star and all that stuff, but I guess had Britain's Got Talent been around now, she would have been one of those mums and might have tried to say, well, you better go in it, but that's another story, we could talk about that some other time. But no, I don't know, I wasn't, because of the handicap and not being able to walk, and because it was the war started, and I was, a lot of that was. I didn't really have much education till I was about 11, and then I was evacuated to Northampton Town, and from being literally bottom of the bottom class, I ended up being second in the top class 3 years later because I wanted to learn. I knew I'd missed out. And I knew I'd missed out physically because I couldn't walk. And I knew because I'd spent half the time in the hospitals and in the air raid shelters, I didn't have much of an education. So I just wanted to learn. And the other kids used to think I was crackers. I used to want more lessons. But that's the only way. Read, learn, So I don't know, I'm a fairly normal kid, but certainly coming from a family with a lot of love and a lot of warmth. I know, again, that sounds corny, but it's real.
It's interesting as well how you turned your adversity into something positive. A lot of people have become down and negative about it and turned that into some reason to be bitter. You've never ever been like that, have you?
Well, no, because when you got my dad, on my birth certificate, it says scavenger for my father's occupation, scavenger. I'm the son of a scavenger, and I'm also the son of a child lady. So when your dad's a dustman and your mum's a child lady, anything from then on, we didn't have a house, we rented room, and then the rooms were renting eventually were hit with a bomb, and you're left with a pile of rubble. There's not much you can do but laugh at it and say, well, it can only get better. And if you've got the attitude to, whatever I'm living in a nice home and I've got a nice car now and all that. But even when times were rough prior, in the early days of show business, I was enjoying every minute of it. I have said, and I mean it, I've not done a day's work, W-O-R-K, not a day's work, since I came into show business. There's days of effort and a little stress that runs with it, but you learn to deal with that, and it's so enjoyable. The only other job I had was in a shoe factory, and show business is better.
And if you don't mind me saying, you seem to have the same illness as Bob Monkhouse and Ken Dodd. You come alive when you're on stage. You just want to show off.
Well, it may be showing off. It may be. Because I'm fairly quiet. I think when I go out in the evening, people think, he's going to be all jokey. I mean, you can switch it on. And when Jodie's had a few, that's my wife, when she had a few American and Australian friends over to come out for dinner one day, she said, well, you were doing a performance there practically. I said, no, I was just trying to entertain and make them all relax. But I think on stage, there is a feeling of wanting, I can't say to be loved, but I have a theory about show business. Affection lasts much longer than admiration, much longer. And that came home with a bang to me years ago in Vegas when I went on one evening to see the dinner show with Sammy Davis Jr. That was about 7:45, I think that went on. Then I went to see the Late Show with Dean Martin, which is about 11 o'clock. And I just thought Sammy Davis was sensational. What a talent. He could do everything. Then I went to see Dean Martin, who could hardly walk on the stage. Well, he could. He was the kid. He was drunk. And I just practically fell in love with the guy. There was such warmth. There was such a feeling, I wouldn't mind sitting down with that guy and just having a laugh and chatting. Whereas with Sammy, I might have been almost a little bit in awe of him. Mind you, having said that, there's a picture there of he and I on stage. I'll show you. We can't show you that. It's not TV, folks, but trust me, it's there. And so I think that admiration is very important. And I guess I wanted to do that with every audience you ever walk out to. This is not the same audience as last night or the one you'll get tomorrow. This is these people now who've paid, they've got on a bus or a bike or they've walked or the car to come and see you, and you should be better than you are on TV, and you should enjoy it. And that, and if you've got the good health to walk out there and do it, that's something else to be thankful for.
Have you ever had a crisis of confidence when you've wondered, am I good enough for this? Because you were the biggest star of TV for many, many years, let's face it, and you'd got all these stars coming on your show. Did you ever wonder why you were there?
I don't think you can analyse it. You might. I used to know at the back of my head, and I'd learnt from other, giants of the business like Jack Benny and Bob Hope and people, and I always asked their advice when I met them and talked to them. And Jack Benny would say to me, "Just enjoy it, just relax. It's not brain surgery you're doing. You're not saving people's lives, but you're helping people. Just go out and enjoy. You're in a privileged position." And I've enjoyed, as I say again, I've been well paid, have a nice home, for doing something I would, don't tell anybody, would do for nothing.
We've got to the bit then where you'd moved to Northampton. When was the point when somebody said, he's a bit funny or a bit different?
I don't know whether anybody said it to me. I sort of said it to myself, because I found that I could make people laugh. I didn't know why. I didn't know quite why they were laughing. But I remember in the shoe factory when I worked in, they put me in I had got my own secretary, and I had to go down to the typing pool, and there'd be 18 very attractive young ladies all banging away on a typewriter. I used to get them giggling, and I used to come out thinking, hey, that's good. I made them laugh. I didn't know why, but I was happy about that. And it wasn't flash or just egotistical. I just felt comfortable that I could make people laugh. And then I would go on the coach trips down to Southend with the gang, and again they would all be expecting me to make them laugh, and you kind of rose to that. So then when I went into the Air Force, I found again I was making people laugh, and I was ordered into a talent contest there by the CO. And then I went to Butlins and I won a talent contest. Then I suddenly thought, I wonder if I really love doing this. I just wonder if I could do it as a professional. And so I went and got myself a job at Butlins. That's another long story, but I got in. And then from Butlins, some people saw me, and I started at the Palace Theatre in Newcastle in 1953. So it just happened. Maybe I kind of planned it along the way, because I do believe in I don't believe that opportunity knocks. I think you have to go and drag it in. You just say, come on, let's make something happen.
Do you think you've either got it or you ain't? You can't be trained to be you, can you?
Well, if we're talking about TV hosts, I think you've got to be relaxed, and the people sitting opposite you have got to know you're relaxed, and they've got to know he knows what he's saying. So everybody can relax, and the moment the guest relaxes, then it will start to happen, and I'll tell you much more than maybe they even intended to tell you. But the most important thing of all, I find, the ingredient that makes a conversation, not an interview, a conversation, what makes that work is the sound of laughter. When they hear the sound. And when we were doing Des and Mel, I don't know, well, they probably wouldn't know, so it was my own little technique. I would go towards them before I didn't wait for them to come and sit down. I would go towards them, and as we were walking to sit around, say, well, where did you get those boots from? Oh my goodness me, did you come on a motorbike or whatever, silly nonsense? And they would have a giggle, and they forgot they were being interviewed, that suddenly they were chipping in and they'd heard the sound of love. So you do learn little things like that, and I think that's vitally important. That's what gets all the other guests to come back, and let them talk. Like you're doing now, you're listening, and you're not sort of interrupting. When I've stopped, you know I've stopped, and then you stop. And I think that's also important. And to be a host, you've got to make the guests look good. You could be there tomorrow or next week. They won't. Well, not regularly, but you can.
And that's what's interesting about somebody like you. I mean, you've gone through 3 or 4 generations of show business, and you're still here. That's interesting today, because it seems like your time frame is shorter if you're in show business in 2009.
Yeah, well, I won't mention who, but there were a few people. Someone was a giant star a few years back, And I wasn't being in any way, it wasn't envy or anything. I just, Halley's Comet is the brightest star in the sky, but it's not there long. So you can burn yourself out. So this is another cliche. It is a marathon. I've never seen it as a sprint, and I wanted to be in it in a long while, and I might be yet. And so I don't know. I don't know what to say really, other than just enjoy it. Just take your time. Don't rush it, because they can sense what's going on out there. The viewers and the audience. I think it's called rapport. They either relax with you or they don't. Fortunately, with me, they do.
I suppose nothing good was made in a rush other than ourselves, really.
Oh, well, I don't want to go into that right now. I've got a 4-year-old son. Could you see this house? Everywhere you look, there's a set of drums over there. There are toys over there. And all my little things have been pushed aside. So I'm very lucky to suddenly have I know I'm changing the subject, but suddenly have a boy in my life after 4 daughters. I've got 4 daughters, one who's older than me. So I'm very lucky.
All right, Des, we're going to come back next and talk about your family and your home and your life today. And I'm going to ask you some advice about, can you laugh women into bed? We'll do it next.